I could really use some advice in dealing with this problematic best friend of my partner's. The trouble has been going on for years now, but it's gotten much worse recently. Okay, for a bit of context, I'm in my mid-20s, and about to have the wedding I've always dreamt of. I mean, getting married is something I fantasized about since I was a kid. Planning the details, the dress, the venue, it all seemed like a fairy tale. I've been with my fiancé for the past 2 years, let's call him Jake. Well, we've been living together for a year already, so the wedding feels more like a formality. Just another step before we start trying for a baby. You know, that's our plan. To get married and then immediately dive into starting a family. It's what we both want, and I feel excited but also a bit anxious about it. But of course, more excited than anxious. We have a solid plan. We're doing great financially because both of us work high-paid and stable jobs in IT. We're about to hit our financial goal of affording a mortgage in a really nice neighborhood. The only real hitch in our plan has been Jake's insistence on including his best friend. Let's call her Jessica in my bridal party. Jessica and I, well, let's just say we don't exactly see eye to eye. She's got this way about her that I don't think I can describe as well as I wish to. This lack of boundaries that literally drives me up the wall. She's always doing things that seem out of line to me, like asking Jake or her male friends to pretend to her partner at the bar, so she just feels safer. But then dislikes it when the guy's actual partner comes along. Isn't she supposed to feel safer with a few more women in the crowd? Ones that she personally knows and can trust. You know, I've tried to retaliate, although subtly, from time to time. But Jake's group of friends just brush him off. Maybe they've known her forever and are used to it, but I can't help but find it odd. For a bit of context, she's the only woman in their tight-knit group of 6 friends, which always struck me as a little off. I might be judging her with prejudice, but I just find it weird that she doesn't have any female friends. At least, not that I know of. Sometimes she would say things that make me deeply uncomfortable, like, "Women are so dramatic sometimes," or, "I can never get along with too many women in a room." And I'm just dumbfounded. I mean, aren't you a woman yourself? How does she feel comfortable having those thoughts, not to mention saying it out loud? All in all, I just don't like her. As you've probably figured out, I don't want her as a bridesmaid. I suggested Jake made her a groomswoman instead. Let her wear a feminine suit or something to match the guys, but he was adamant that she be a part of my bridal party. He wanted us to get along and kept saying how she's like family to him. Obviously, I wanted to make him happy. I don't get why it's so important to him, but I guess compromise is part of marriage. Against my better judgment, I agreed, but it's only gotten worse from there. From the get-go, Jessica was a mess. She was supposed to handle the RSVP list, a simple enough task, but she bungled it completely. Honestly, I don't know how somebody could be so irresponsible. At one point, I even suspected that she did it intentionally, although I can't figure out why. Some invites were a little crumpled, which I only found out about because I met up with invitees in person, and happened to see the invites in their bags. So I don't know if they were more crumpled ones that the guests were just too nice to tell me about. It gets worse. Some close friends did not even get the invites. I had to do damage control, texting them myself and apologizing. It was embarrassing and absolutely frustrating. I could not understand how somebody could screw up something so basic. We had a talk, and of course we did. She apologized, although very half-heartedly, and explained that she was too busy to be more careful. My bridal party and I have had to take care of her tasks since then. Luckily, I have a very supportive maid of honor. Let's call her Sarah. And she's been stepping up for me a lot. I feel bad for making her do so many more things, though. But it is what it is. But the real kicker was the bachelor party. Jake and I did not want to do anything wild, no strippers, no crazy antics, just a low-key night with friends. I trust them completely. We both agreed on a quiet evening, but Jessica, of course, managed to derail that plan. I should have seen it coming, guys. My bachelorette party was supposed to happen the weekend after Jake's bachelor party. He and the boys are going to have their little rendezvous in a fancy hotel in the city. So we've agreed that Jessica could not come. Long story short, We had a huge fight about how she did not manage to handle the invites, and she was a bridesmaid, not a groomsman. Jake was frustrated that Jessica could not join them. But I literally made all the sense in the world to him, like, no, you can't have the best of both worlds by being half-butted. Sorry. I don't know how Jessica took the news, and honestly, I don't care. Jake had to break it to her, and judging from his mood after getting home from a hangout with his friend group, I could imagine that they were not that happy. Still, I felt as though she had crossed a line, and she needed to learn that there were consequences to her behavior. So I don't really regret having stood up for myself. That night, I stayed home expecting everything to go smooth. Instead, I get a call from Sarah, who was there to pick up her drunk boyfriend, one of Jake's friends. For context, we all sort of met each other when we were in college. We didn't go all to the same school, but we knew each other from mutuals. I guess we liked each other enough to keep the connection brewing. Sarah and her boyfriend were the people who set me and Jake up. So you can imagine how bad I was looking by trying to, quote, break the group up. You know, in the words of Sarah's boyfriend. Anywho, Sarah, she told me that Jessica had showed up uninvited, dressed in a ridiculous outfit, you should have seen it, that made her look like a cheap stripper. Which, way too much makeup on, I was stunned to hear it. What the hell was she thinking? Sarah went on to say she suspected Jessica might have confessed some kind of feelings for Jake. She wasn't certain, because the guys would not let her in on it, but, that was her impression. Of course, I asked for the details. She said that she briefly saw Jessica and Jake on the bed playing with what seemed like a drinking game, while the rest of them were either on the floor or standing at the door to stop her from seeing what's going on in the room. Sarah's boyfriend was on the verge of having alcohol poisoning, and they called her so that she could deal with him. It sounded like whatever was going on was so good that they could not care less about their friend, who might need immediate medical attention. It was all so absurd. And then it hit me. Not one of them thought it was important to tell me. I found out only because Sarah was more loyal to me than that crappy group of friends. I don't think I have ever been that overwhelmed with emotions in my entire life. I felt a very intense mix of anger and disbelief. How could Jake let this happen? And why didn't anyone think I deserved to know? So now I don't know what to do. Jake is coming home tomorrow, and I just don't know if I should just call him up right now and break it off. Part of me still wants her to give an explanation from him. We're literally getting married. We were going to build a life together, How in the hell could this happen? What would you do if you found yourself wound? What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. Oh man, do we have a drama today. I want to know what you would do if you were in OP's position. How would you talk to Sarah? And just let me know everything. Guys, drop it down below. There is a couple updates to hop into, and if you're new to the channel, well, welcome, and consider subscribing for daily stories. Here's the first update, update number 1. Hey, it's me again. First of all, thank you for reading the post. I would have never expected it to go, as they say, viral. I'm overwhelmed with responses, but I'll try to read as many as I can. I saw one comment that accused me of being mean. Well, I'm sure as hell, yeah, a feisty woman, but I don't know about mean. You're probably going to change your mind as soon as you hear this part of the story that I'm telling you, because my sixth sense is not off. When Jake got home that day, he looked like a deer that's been absolutely caught in some headlights. I've used the whole night to think about what I wanted to do, and I decided I'm going to face this. I kinda wanted just to pack my bags and go, but I knew that I should still need some closure to be able to fully just move on. So, I confronted him immediately, and he swore to me nothing happened, and that he loves me and so forth, So I confronted him, right? And, he said his friends were just trying to keep things peaceful, and I wanted to believe him, but I was furious. The fact that Jessica even thought that she could pull something like this is infuriating, and the idea that his friends would cover for her, that they wouldn't see how inappropriate her behavior was and the way she was dressed, and it made me question everything. I was angry, but I was also hurt. Jake did not anticipate this or do more to prevent it, and in the days that followed, I could not shake the feeling of unease. I was supposed to be finalizing wedding details and getting excited for my bachelorette party, but all I could think about was Jessica and her disruptive presence. Jake, he did try to make amends. He became extra sweet and caring, which made me question the relationship even more. Well, yeah, I don't know. It took him one giant mistake to realize he could have cared more about who was supposed to be the love of his life. Ridiculous. Anyways, I came to the conclusion that he needs to pick a lane. Either cut Jessica out of the friend group or I'm not marrying him. Yeah, an ultimatum. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. I sound like the crazy girlfriend in the group who would not let her partner have female friends. Well, I don't give a flying dang. Jessica had crossed too many lines, and I'm sick of it. Jake reluctantly agreed to stop hanging out with her, but he'll have to see her from time to time because they have a lot of mutuals. Fine with me, as long as I don't see him hanging out with that toxic group and Jessica at the same time. So the next morning, I decided I had to confront Jessica directly. I didn't trust Jake to break the news to her anymore, considering what went down at the bachelor's party. I tried to start calmly, but it did not take long before my frustration boiled over. I ended up yelling at her, but I had a good reason to do so. She acted like I was completely out of line, saying I was overreacting and insisting that nothing bad happened. It was absolutely infuriating, as you can imagine. Guys, she played the innocent card, as if I were the crazy one for being upset and accusing. I told her that in no uncertain terms to stay the hell away from my man, and made it clear that if she showed up at the wedding, I would personally throw her out. No need for a security guard. Admittedly, this did cause some rift between me and Sarah. She was having problems with her boyfriend because he wanted her to stop being my friend. I could tell that the whole friend group sort of hates me now. Or maybe they've always hated me. I'm not too sure anymore. I told Sarah that I was not backing down. The bachelorette party was rescheduled for next week, but Sarah, after doing all the organization work, told me that she might be coming. It turns out that her boyfriend had threatened to break up with her if she continued to be close to me. On one hand, I don't really think I've done anything wrong. On the other hand, I feel really bad about Sarah. She's the one who's made all the sacrifices to cover up Jessica's mistakes for me. But I'm also disappointed in her. How could she just side with her crappy boyfriend who somehow still protects his friend group even though they were ready to leave him alone? The whole while he's struggling with alcohol poisoning? This is absurd. I don't know what to do now. I don't know if I should go ahead with the bachelorette without Sarah, or if I should go through with the wedding at all. Update number 2. I can't believe it's been a month, guys. Thank you for checking up on me. Here's your long-awaited update, although I must say I wish there was more good news. So, I went ahead with the bachelorette party with Sarah. I felt bad about it. It was not as fun as I thought it would be without her, but I also felt like I did the right thing. There's been a lot of tension between us, and she's still keeping up with all her maid of honor tasks, but it doesn't feel like something that we're enjoying doing anymore. She's just fulfilling her duties. But the look in her eyes every time we talk just tells me that she feels horrible about it. I don't know what to do with her. To be honest, I can't be mad for her too long. But she did disappoint me, and I'm still upset that she did not side with me, and she's still with that dude. When the dress rehearsal came, I was already on edge. It was supposed to be a joyful occasion and a practice run for our big day. But I could not shake the feeling of dread. I kept thinking to myself, do I really want to marry this man? Do I really want my mother-in-law to be here with so much anxiety about what her boyfriend could say to her about me? And then, as if on cue, Jessica shows up. She had the nerve to walk in looking all sweet and innocent, as if nothing happened, and my blood boiled. Jake confessed that he had let her come, assuming I would have let it go by now. The look on his face, it said it all. Oh man, it said every single thing I needed to know. He was bracing himself for an explosion. I could see the tension in his eyes and the silent plea for me to just let it slide. Well, what else was I supposed to do? The whole family was there, and they did not know about this nonsensical drama, and of course I could not make a big deal out of this. I just tried to ignore her, focusing on the people who were genuinely happy for us. But it was hard every time I saw her out of the corner of my eye. It felt like a slap in the face. Looking back, I realized that I should have stood my ground from the beginning and kept her out at the wedding entirely. But at the time, I just wanted to make Jake happy. He had been so sweet and caring to me, and then very unexpectedly, Sarah just came forward with an offer of help. She approached me quietly and revealed that she might have a way to get some clarity. Oh, it turns out Sarah was actually the one who picked the hotel as the destination for the bachelor party because her dad owns it. She explained that as a woman, she could not stand the idea of my husband possibly doing things behind my back and allowing Jessica to cross so many lines. She also apologized for not having taken my side earlier. She managed to mention to me that there were security cameras at the hotel and offered to get the footage for me. It was a chance to see for myself what had really happened that night, to either confirm my worst fears or put them to rest. The idea of watching the footage made me nervous, but I needed to know the truth. So I asked Sarah to get the footage for me. She agreed without hesitation, and finally there was a possibility of finding out what really went down. She said that it was going to take a few days, and I didn't tell Jake about the footage. I needed to see it for myself before involving him. It feels like I was carrying a heavy burden alone, but I had to stay strong. My wedding, it's in 5 days. Honestly, I'm scared. Canceling the wedding would cost me a fortune, and I haven't told my family anything. I'm preparing myself for the worst possible case scenario, but it's hard. Should I just tell my bridal party and the whole family about what went down? They're already on edge, seeing how much tension there was in the room when Jessica arrived. Oh, and I'm also not talking to Jake. Like, I'm giving him absolute cold treatment. People are asking questions and telling me to communicate so they can help me fix the problem, but this is hard, and it's so embarrassing. Update number 3. I didn't think that I'd have an update for you, but just 2 days, here we are. Heads up, things are not looking good, like at all. When Sarah finally handed me the footage, my hands were literally shaking and trembling. I took it home, sat down, and took a deep breath before pressing play. The minutes, they ticked by slow, and the footage showed up the guys. They were having a great time. Nothing out of the ord. The camera's in the hallway, so it's not like I can see a lot anyways. I only saw them walking in and out of the room, and in the brief moments that the door was opened, I could see that they were partying and drinking. So much for having a quiet night. But then there was Jessica, dressed in that ridiculous outfit, strutting into the hallway like she owned the place. It was even worse than I thought. She was in a trench coat at first, but as soon as somebody opened the door, she asked for Jake and took the coat off. In the hallway, my heart was racing as I watched her interact with Jake and his friends. She was extremely touchy-feely. It was absolutely infuriating. I kept watching, my eyes glued to the screen, and they finally let her into the room. Honestly, it looked like they were cheering for her or something. Before closing the door, Jake even looked around to make sure nobody was walking in. Of course he missed the camera, and then it happened. I saw her pull Jake outside away from the group. They went off to a corner of the hallway where the camera angle wasn't very great, but I could still make out their figure. It looked like they were talking, but I could not hear what was being said. Jessica was animated, gesturing a lot, and Jake looked uncomfortable. After a few minutes, Jake walked away from her, rejoining his friends, while Jessica lingered behind looking upset. Well, that was it. No big dramatic scene, no clear confession, but enough to make me feel very uneasy. The footage did not show anything conclusive, but it validated my feelings, so now I have proof that Jessica was a problem. But it wasn't the smoking gun that I hoped for. At least I knew Jake had not done anything outright terrible. He had not betrayed me. But I was wrong. The tape did not finish there. After the initial footage of Jessica and Jake's interaction, there was more, and I mean a lot more. See, after going back to his room, Jake took his jacket and went outside, and continued talking to Jessica. They took the elevator, and about 15 minutes later, I saw my man and Jessica go into a private room together. The sight of them disappearing behind that door made my stomach churn. It was disgusting, and my suspicions were confirmed when I cross-referenced the hotel records that Sarah also sent me, which showed that Sarah's boyfriend had actually paid for their room that my husband and Jessica were using. The guys flooded into Jessica's room screaming. They brought extra chairs, and I could only imagine what was going on in there. What's she giving them lap dances? I don't even know what to do anymore. The betrayal was complete. It wasn't just about Jessica anymore, it was about Jake, the man I was supposed to marry, and how he had let this happen. It was about his friends who had not only allowed it, but encouraged it. I knew I couldn't go through with the wedding. I could not marry a man who has done this for me. I need a plan. How do I end this with the wedding in just 3 days? Update number 4. Hey, I woke up today feeling terrible. This is supposed to be D-Day. So 2 days ago, I sort of managed to get my crap together. I made up my mind I would cancel everything for the wedding, but I had to do it discreetly. I didn't want Jake to know until it was too late. I called every vendor and every service and asked for any available refunds to be sent directly to my account instead of Jake's. I felt a strange sense of relief as I did this. Like, I was taking back control of the situation, man. Jake's probably going to freak out, but I could not give a flying heck. Then I asked to meet up with my bridesmaids, but in reality it was just me, Sarah, and Jess. I needed to confront Jessica one last time, but this time I would do it on my own terms. We met at a coffee shop, of course, someplace far away from Jake's apartment, and Jessica arrived looking smug, probably thinking that she had gotten away with everything. Well, I put on my best act and I pretended to apologize for her for overreacting, saying that I've been under a lot of stress and had misunderstood the situation. I could see her smirk as if she had won. Sarah played along, backing up my story, and we told Jessica that we had some mailing duties for her, a task to help with the wedding preparations. If she could not help us with that, we said that she would be back for the wedding. I even went as far as to apologize to her again, feigning regret and desperation, and Jessica bought it. What she didn't know was that we had prepared a USB with incriminating footage. It was included in the package that was supposed to be mailed to Jake's parents. They were very conservative, and I knew this would hit them hard. They'd always held high moral standards and would not take this lightly. To make it even more impactful, we used Jessica's name and address as the sender. It was a petty move, but I wanted her to face some consequence for her actions. You know, Sarah and I made up after this. I found out that her boyfriend has been very abusive. He would occasionally hit her when she did not do as he said, and she told me that she's seeing a therapist because of it. This really explains why it was so hard for her to just leave the man. I consoled her, telling her that it's all going to be over soon, and I'm going to leave Jake, and she's going to break up with her man, and we're in this together. So I guess there's that for now. We're waiting for the fallout, and it's not going to be pretty. But it's worth it. Emotionally, I feel terrible. But I know this will pass soon because I did everything I could to protect myself. I'll let you know once I have an update. Update number 5. Hello, everyone. I'm sorry it took so long to write something. I can't believe it's already been 4 months. Anyways, a lot's happened. Long story short, I'm doing much better now, but it's not going to be all good news. The situation has been quite complicated. Jake's parents were devastated when they received the footage. His mom, already frail and dealing with health issues, could not handle the shock. Apparently, she had a heart attack shortly after watching the incriminating video. To be honest, I feel really bad for her. I didn't think that it would escalate this much, but at the same time, I don't regret it. It's time Jake faces what he's done. The family, understandably, was in chaos, and Jake's dad was furious, but not at me. He laid the blame squarely on Jessica, convinced that she had intentionally sent the footage to ruin the wedding. In their eyes, Jessica was the instigator who brought shame upon their family. Of course, it was partly because of how she dressed up that night. She was just their textbook idea of the devil's advocate. Amidst the fallout, I knew it was time for me to act. I officially broke off the engagement with Jake. When I ended things, I made it clear that I was taking the money for the wedding funds, and it totaled up to $32,000, which was not too much, but it was still quite a huge amount considering the fact that I canceled just a few days before the event. Surprisingly, Jake did not even dare to ask for it. He seemed to understand that he had lost the right to make any demands after what he had put me through. I made it seem like I'd canceled it because Jessica had met up with me and showed me the footage. Basically, I blamed it all on her. It's a pretty, big pettiness, sure, but I'm not the kind of person who's going to take the high road. If you're wrong to me, you're dead to me. Sarah, who had been my rock through this ordeal, also broke up with her stupid boyfriend. It was a liberating decision for both of us. We had been dragged through the mud by the men that we thought we loved. And now it was time to move forward. I'm helping her prepare for a lawsuit. Yes, we're talking about the jerks in court. Nobody lays a hand on my friend and walks. With the money from the wedding deposits, I paid back my parents their $25,000 and spent the rest on well-deserved vacations for me and Sarah. Bali seemed like the perfect destination. It was far from the chaos and a beautiful place where we could relax and heal. Returning from Bali, I felt rewarded and renewed. I had a clear perspective on what I wanted in life and what I would not tolerate. It was a hard lesson to learn, but it was necessary. Back home, I've been focusing on my career and my personal growth. And yes, Sarah and I remained close. But about Jake, well, he cut contact with Jessica, convinced that she was the one who caused his mom a heart attack. He did try to beg for my forgiveness a few times, but I blocked him. Last I heard, Jessica's now dating another friend in that problematic group. And for that, they've cut contact with Jake. So he's all alone now. So much for being friends for life. Huh?